Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started in a minute or so. Just want to give people a few more minutes to log in. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. Thanks for joining me on this wonderful Tuesday morning for this month's Advocacy Webinar. My name is JP Dorval. I'm the Advocacy and Public Policy Liaison for Prevention Action Alliance. Today's webinar is actually going to be pretty short and succinct. All I really want to discuss with you all today is what's going on with the budget, things that we need to speak out on, next steps, and I also want to circle back to an event that we are hosting next week. But that'll be the two main topics for today's webinar. And please, can you guys see my screen? I just want to make sure that I have the correct screen up. Feel free to just put it in the chat if you can. Should just be the PowerPoint slide. Great, awesome, thank you. So, last time we were talking about the budget, I know I mentioned student wellness and success. I think last time the budget was still in the House. So we were trying to figure out whether we could change the student wellness and success language so that it included prevention. Just as a quick recap, when the budget was first introduced in the House, the governor's version had student wellness and success at about, I think, $1.1 billion in revenue over 2 years, with prevention being listed as both a use and a partner. So when schools, the goal was, when schools moved to develop their plans on how to utilize these dollars, they would consult prevention groups, coalitions, and they would have prevention listed as a possible use for those dollars. And we were hoping that, since we no longer have the K-12 funding from last budget, this would kind of continue that work. The House had other plans for this funding. They added in a school funding bill, a school funding formula into the budget, which pretty much pulled all the funds out of student wellness and success and put those funds in something called the Disadvantaged Pupil Impact Aid. It's aid that schools receive based on the number of economically disadvantaged kids that they have when compared to the state. And those funds could be utilized for a series of things, including preschool education. And so those were the lists that were originally in this Disadvantaged Pupil Impact Aid / economically disadvantaged aid package. Now, in order to try to mesh the two, all they did was add the uses from student wellness and success to the uses they already had for this economically disadvantaged impact aid, or disadvantaged pupil impact aid. It kind of goes by both terms. In doing so, we've really seen a dilution of how these funds can be utilized by schools, and these funds aren't restricted. So schools can really use them for whatever they want. So if we were concerned about supplantation of these funds, these funds being utilized for non-behavioral health services last time around, it's going to be worse this time around if the language stays the way that it is. So that said, our ask after talking to some partners who also have an issue with this is for the Senate, now that the bill is in the Senate, to return the language back to the way that it was when it was first introduced, right before the House made its changes. So that is returning the student wellness and success dollars to its original form, the original form that was in the governor's version of the budget. So that's been our ask. We had a conversation with the chair of the Finance Committee in the Senate last week, and the Senate is definitely all for it. There may be some members who are a bit concerned because school groups, educational groups are coming out pretty strongly, not necessarily against our ask, but in support of this merger, because the school funding formula, and it's not only the economically disadvantaged stuff, there's other things with the funding formula that they've been fighting for years. They finally see this as a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, in order to fund some of their items, they're pulling funding from different parts of the budget, including our funding from Student Wellness and Success. Now, we're completely fine with what they want to do. I mean, it's good what they want to do. I mean, those uses for economically disadvantaged students, that's great. However, find the money in another location. Don't take the money from kids who need behavioral health supports. And because this money is allocated to school districts based on, their economically disadvantaged population, there's also an argument to be made that making that change is stigmatizing. You're essentially saying that economically disadvantaged kids are the ones who have behavioral health issues, not the upper middle class, wealthier student population, which we know is not the case. The Student Wellness and Success Funds are supposed to be allocated to every school, regardless of economically disadvantaged status. They're based in the formula, there was a higher weight given to those who are economically disadvantaged because that makes sense. But at the end of the day, every school receives something. Based on the formula for the economically disadvantaged or disadvantaged people impact aid now, wealthier school districts will receive near to nothing if they don't have a strong economically disadvantaged population. So there's going to be a reduction in services overall if this funding is not returned to its original form. So in the chat, I've added 2 documents that I hope you all can access. The first one, you'll see it reads Student Wellness and Success, I think, email template. This is an email template that I would like all of you to utilize to contact your members. All you have to do is enter your senator's name and enter your name at the bottom and just send their office an email. All the language is there. If you want to add something to the language or you want to tweak something, that is fine. But all the language is there. So that is something that I'm going to be asking folks to do over the next couple of weeks. Again, the chair of the Finance Committee, so we have JP, I don't see the document in the chat. Okay, Christina, I think it's because you came in a bit after I sent it. So let me put this in again. And it looks like I'm having issues. Give me 1 second, folks, sorry. Okay, so I just added the Student Wellness and Success one. I'm back in the chat. But the goal is to have folks reach out to their senators either over the phone or via email. I know email is easier for folks given that, it takes time to make the phone call for the day. You have to step away from your work. But if you just send this email, you're doing enough. really at this point in time, the Senate just needs to hear more voices in order to back their push to undo the changes that the House made to this. So that's really it. So, and let me go through very quickly for those of you who are unfamiliar with how to figure out who your senator is. So if you go to Google, and can everyone see my screen still? You can just put it in the chat. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. So if you go to Google, you type in Ohio General Assembly. This is what pops up. If you go to district maps, this will bring this page up, and it'll show you, who your senator and representative are. So here's the House district, here's the Senate district. Let me just type in, let's see here. Let me type in KA's address. So it'll list everyone within that area. Now, if you want to get a little more specific, you need the 9-digit zip code. So if you just type, again, it auto-populates, click find. So here's your 9-digit zip code. You just copy that, go back here. And then boom, right? It'll show you who for your area, for your exact address, represent you. So for PA's address, we have Representative Beth Liston, and we have Senator Stephanie Coonsey. So if I were sending this letter to PAA's senator, I would address it to Senator Coonsey. Does that make sense? And when it comes to a deadline, there isn't a hard deadline. I know that the Senate is accepting amendments this week. So I would say, to be safe, by Friday, if folks could send this to their senators, since it's currently in the Senate, that would be great. So if I were to put a deadline out, I would say by Friday, but really the sooner you can send it, the better, because they are accepting amendments to the bill on Wednesday. And I believe they will be discussing it this weekend. So please, if you have a second today, to take a moment to send it to your senator, figure out who they are, and send that their way, that would be extremely helpful. So please take time to do that. Also, feel free to share the template with your partners. We will be sending out communication about this week. But if there are folks who aren't, connected to our Spectrum network or any of our newsletters that you want to share this with, please feel free to share it with them. It's a pretty standard template, pretty universal, and the ask is the same really across the continuum. So again, share this with your network, spread the word, take a moment to send it in yourselves. It really only takes a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. If you want to hop on a call to discuss, I can do that as well. So any additional questions about that? Okay. So the second budget issue I would like to discuss, and this is pretty new, is a composition change to our Adam H boards that was put in by the House before they passed it in. So let me pull up this analysis language for you all so you understand exactly what the issue is. So I'll zoom in. So the House decided to remove the categorical appointment requirement that boards have, which essentially means, as of right now, boards are supposed to have a member or two representing different categories. So one with like lived experience, or a family member of someone who has mental health issues, and people who are in recovery. So they want to remove those categorical appointments. They want to shift the appointment authority towards the Board of County Commissioners, where they make 80% of the appointments, and Ohio Mocs makes 20%. They also want to reduce the number of board members to between 5 and 9 throughout the state. So there are a ton of issues with this. I mean, you're reducing community impact on the boards. You're really tying the board's hands, because a lot of our boards operate with, between that 18 to 14 member count. And we've been told that the boards are okay with that number, that they don't necessarily have an issue filling that. So when you combine the loss of the categorical appointments with the reduction in the sizes of our boards, and then that shift to the boards, to the appointment by county commissioners, it's a recipe for disaster. So we are asking folks, if you have the capacity, and I know this is a more complex issue, but we are asking folks to also ask their Senate members to remove this language from the bill. And I did put another email template in the chat at the start, but I'll share it again, that kind of lays out the language for that ask. And it's called the Adam H. Categorical Appointment Email Template. So that was just added. Once again, please, if you have the capacity, share this email as well. My recommendation is that folks send both separately. We don't want to confuse anyone, since these issues aren't necessarily tied to each other, but there are two issues that PAA has taken a stance against, and would like to see changed. So again, I think, if we were talking about level of importance, getting the student wellness and success dollars is of the highest priority. This is a high priority item as well, but if you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel like you understand it, we completely understand. But I wanted to make sure that both these resources were available to you so that you could send it. And you're sending it to the same senator, whoever your senator is. Please take the time to send it to them. Any questions? Okay, awesome. And I will also put my email in the chat, just in case folks have questions that they think about once we conclude today and they want to, pick my brain or ask me something. That is completely fine. Oh, yes, Susan. So both of these items are actually in the budget. So it's House Bill 110. Both of these items, both the categorical appointment issue and the student wellness and success issue, are in the budget bill. So it's not a separate bill. Yeah. Sorry if that was not clear. Any other questions? Again, everyone, from PAA's perspective, we've done the communication. We sent a letter out to all the members, and we, had a conversation with the chair of the finance committee. We're actually having a conversation with Senator Hottinger, who really is the second in command for the Senate, this week as well. But in order for this to be an effective advocacy push, we really need all of your support. We need you all to contact your members and just send that email, because once everyone sees it, they'll see how widespread the issue is and how important of an ask our ask is. So it's really key for you all to get your networks involved. I know some of you are have great relationships with county commissioners in your area, with board members in your area. Have them send these letters as well. It's really important that we send these in a timely fashion so that the Senate has enough ammunition to push back against the changes that the House made. Will we have access to these slides? So this entire presentation will be posted on our YouTube page. And I can always, send the slides out after the fact, but I mean, these slides don't really have a lot of information on them. So I will post the link to this YouTube page or to this YouTube video in our legislative update that goes out tomorrow. It should be uploaded today. So if you go to Prevention Action Alliance's YouTube page, you'll see the legislative webinar from today, and you'll be able to skip around and kind of listen back to for the information in this conversation that we're having. So hopefully that answers your question. But that's usually how we go about it. We post the entire session on our YouTube page. Okay. So if there are not any other questions regarding the budget, the only other thing I would like to talk to you all today about is our summit happening next week on the 20th, which is that Thursday, the Prevention Action Advocacy Summit on Racism, Promoting Equity Through Culturally Competent Prevention. Listen, folks, I know, we talk about cultural competency a lot in the prevention field. And I know, I've had conversations with a lot of you about improvements that prevention can make when it comes to equity, when it comes to the inclusion and diversity. And this is really going to be the focus of the summit next week. We have a list of or a slate of incredible speakers. And the topics that we are going to be covering are going to be very impactful. We're going to touch on racism in health. We're going to touch on cultural competence and humility. We're going to touch on the criminal justice system and the history and background of the war on drugs. So it's going to be a pretty robust conversation. I would love for you all to participate. The conference goes from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the 20th. CEs will be given out. So if you're in need of some CEs, it's a great opportunity to get those in as well. And I can add the registration link in the chat. Just give me one moment. But really, it's going to be a very robust conference. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email me. We do have it up on our webpage as well. So just please, if you have the capacity, take time to register and join us on the 20th. And bear with me here as I get the link. All right, I just posted the link in the chat. Any questions about the conference next week? All right, I am not seeing any questions come through. So again, you all have my email. feel free to send me an email if you have any questions about the budget or the conference. I have the conference page up so you can see kind of the layout. And yeah, so thank you for joining me this morning for this month's advocacy webinar. Looking forward to seeing you all again. Thanks.